absolutely. And I think, I grew up in an HBCU environment. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I always wanted to go, play it in the SWAC because I was, being in Mississippi and Jackson, we saw Jackson State and Alcorn and Mississippi Valley and all those big-time rivalries. And I saw a lot of the guys that I looked up to, playing. So for me, that choice was pretty easy. And me going through what I went through and being with the coaches that I went through, I didn't really look at it as what we didn't have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But now things are so much more visible with social media and all these media outlets. Kids know now. Kids know, watching Zion Williamson on TV and he has 5 different pair of tennis shoes. It's a difference, It makes a difference. But, I still don't frown upon it. I just try to work as hard as I can to make sure my guys have, everything that they need and everything that they will want as far as when they go to college. And a lot of programs, they struggle with that, especially HBCUs. We're not funded like everybody else, and we realize that. And, we do a lot of different things to try to, equal the playing fields. And but it could be a tough situation if you didn't know what you were getting into,
Most definitely.
Fortunately for me, I grew up in it. I understand it. And I try to, with our program, we really try to subsidize a lot of different things to make sure that our kids aren't lacking for anything.
You got that right, and so you're in the historic conference, the SWAC conference. You said Jackson State, Mississippi Valley State, Alcorn State, all the schools in the SWAC. They all have a history about them, Coach. And I know for me, since State's my school in the OVC, I wish it was in the SWAC or the MEAC, but we're in the OVC because it's not the same. Because I love the environment of a SWAC basketball game and the bands and the camaraderie, just being around your people, man. Let's talk about how just that's the environment experience of a SWAC game and how you just feel that love and that soul about the game of basketball with everything else going on around the court as well.
I'm telling you, I remember being a kid and I was at the Athletic Assembly Center. No, it was the Coliseum, actually. They played at the Coliseum when Audie Norris shattered the backboard.
Wow.
I was a little kid. And I still remember that like it was yesterday. And it was jam-packed. And, man, I went home just talking about Audie Norris. Like, he shattered the glass, Those are memories that I lived with growing up and watching Michael Phelps and watching Aaron Brandon and, all those great basketball players that Machine Gun Kelly at Texas Southern, it was a lot of guys that were really, really good. And man, I just thought, even going to the football games, being in that environment, watching Jerry Rice come to Memorial Stadium and it's sold completely out,
Yes, indeed.
And watching Aaron McNair do the same thing and knowing that he was special, watching him out on the field like this dude is different, So all those things make the experience what it is. And we all have a bond. Regardless of what school we go to, when we all see each other, we all have a bond. And we there's a saying, every time you see a fellow SWAC player, we call each other SWAC everywhere we go,
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And it's just a special camaraderie and a special bond and a feeling of pride that you have when you see your fellow SWAC guys doing something special.
You got that right. And I said, we play Jackson State in football in Memphis every year, so that's classic TSU. So I always enjoy to see the battle of the bands from Jackson State and Tennessee State and who bands better, the cookouts, the food outside the Liberty Bowl.
Oh,
I mean, I wish we could. I loved when we played the black schools before the OVC schedule because it was the most fun I had personally. Before that, because I'm like, we get the OVC, it's like,
Right. And that classic in Tennessee, man, that that was the norm for us. My father started that a long time ago. We would make that trip up and get us a hotel, and we would stay, and we would have a ball. So that became a thing we look forward to. Even after I left college and went to the NBA, I would call down and make sure I made reservations to come back to the Classic.
Oh, wow. And right before training camp started, too.
Yeah, man. Right before training, I'm like, man, we got to go to the Classic. And we would go down and have a ball, you know. But those are the things, man, that, you know, I remember the Soul Bowl when Jackson State and Alcorn played at the Coliseum. It's just something about it, and I really enjoy it, and I really, you know, hopefully we can get back to a higher level, because I just remember being in school and you know, we had pros getting drafted out of Jackson State every year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were 2 and 3 guys going to the NFL every season. You know, and I think it can get back to that. I think there's enough talent around, and there's enough kids with awareness that know that, hey, I can go anywhere and be discovered if I'm good.
Most definitely. And I'm going to ask you about Carlos Rogers and Anthony Mason. They probably played against those guys in the NBA. I was playing against my two fellow alumni there, Anthony Mason and Carlos Rogers in the NBA there.
Man, it's kind of the same thing. We all shared that bond, man. We all shared that bond, and we had just so much respect for one another from coming from where we came from, and watching each one of those guys, you know, do what they did and have the longevity that we all had. It really spoke volumes to, you know, the HBCU experience. And you know, Carlos being from Detroit, I really got to know him a lot. Spent a lot of time with him in the summers. You know, it gave you a sense of dignity and a sense of pride coming from HBCU. And I still think that, you know, with some of the guys that I've been recruiting, those are the type of things that I try to talk to them about and get them to understand. If you're good enough and that's what you really want to do, you can get there. There's nothing stopping you, you know, and I'm going to do all I can to make sure I provide the avenues for them to get there. But it's about you putting the work in and being dedicated to your craft. If that's what you want to do. Hey, you can go to Mississippi Valley and get drafted just like you can go to Duke and get drafted. There's no look. I tell people this all the time. Zion Williamson could have went to any school in the country. He was going to be the number 1 pick regardless.
Most definitely. And John Morant, same with Murray State. I mean, in the OVC, Murray State, John Morant, number 2 pick in the draft. No Zion Williamson, he's number 1. Rookie of the year. Out of the OVC.
Right. I mean, and we have so many examples of guys that didn't go to high-profile schools, but they're excelling at the next level, you know, and I always when everybody was talking about all the kids coming to HBCUs, I'm happy for it. I'm you know, of course we would love to get 5 4-star guys, but I was like, I take pride in finding a Steph Curry or finding a Damian Lillard, or finding a CJ McCollum or Ja Morant or, you know, Paul George. I take pride in finding those guys, you know. It just means so much more when you have a player that you can see develop right in front of your eyes that maybe everybody didn't pay attention to, you know?
Most definitely.
And I think that's, you know, we had that when I was in school. We had Alfonso Ford. We had, you know, Leonard Bennett. We had myself. We had a bunch of guys who were really, really good and played on the next level. And you know, that's what we want to get back to.
Most definitely. And, Coach, your team's blessed. And so Alabama State, you know, because Mo Williams there now. You guys played in the league. You can tell them what it's like to be in the league and how to get there. So I feel like when you speak to your players, they have a different set of, like, oh, Coach Hunter knows. He was in the league for all these years, played with a great team, great organizations, and can show me the way to get there. So I feel like your guys have a level of respect for you and Mo as well, because you all made it to that highest level that they want to eventually achieve in their careers, hopefully.
Absolutely. And one thing, the group we have right now, man, I really think they're a special group. Just being around them and watching how they interact with each other, and watching how much respect they have for me, man, it really makes you feel good about some of the young guys that are coming up now. And I think we have a great group, man. I'm speaking in terms of young men, not even the basketball aspect, but just as young men, they're very respectful. They're just a joy to be around and to coach. And I'm just so, anxious to get those guys on the court, because I know, with their mental attitudes, they're going to be great. They're going to find a way to become a great team. It's just a matter of, of us being able to get out there on the floor and hopefully have some resemblance of a season this year.
Now, Coach, on my birthday, March 11th, I was at the Hawks game and the Knicks, and I got the word that is going to get suspended. And I know you probably either on the way to Birmingham or in Birmingham for the SWAC tournament. So how did you guys handle that whole transition from hopefully playing a tournament to not playing a tournament, to going home, going all virtual, trying to make sure grades stay up, guys stay in shape? So how was that whole process from pretty much March 11th through that whole period to get the guys back home and safely to get that spring semester there?
Well, it was tough because, it was right around spring break. And when I saw the NBA stop, I knew I was like, okay, it's serious, because the NBA, they ain't stopping for nobody.
Got there right.
and when I saw that, I told my guys, I was like, hey, this is pretty serious. This thing may very well be over with. And rightfully so. So it was a shock, because it's something we've never experienced before. So there's no way anybody could have been prepared for, what happened to us. I think now, we're just trying to feel our way through and hopefully, we can combat this virus and get back to some normalcy, because it's tough right now, and it's just so much uncertainty.
Yes, and the virus controls it all. I never would have thought in a million years that, hey, on my birthday, March 11th, the Hawks would be done for the whole year. That was it. No more Hawks. So no more me no more checks for a while, right? I had no idea that was going to happen. And, I don't know when the Hawks are coming back this next season. So, for me, I'm not used to being home this much, So I know for a college kid, having to go to school and, trying to get work done virtually when you used to be in class. I'm in my 30s, and now they in 18, 19, 20 some years old. Different for them, different for me. So it's like, wow. So I can feel for your young men to having to deal with something so different that come down on their shoulders. And wow. How even try to keep your guys motivated and positive through this whole pandemic and not get down because their normal is not the same anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and I've had the pleasant treat of coaching my son. So being in the house with him and watching the struggles mentally that he's been going through, he can't just go see his friends like he used to. He just can't go, to a movie or go to the mall or just go. It's really tough on him, and I get it, and I think initially, I think they didn't really understand how serious that it was until they saw, how many people we were losing. And that's, when my son was like, Dad, this is serious. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, I hate the fact that you can't have a normal life and go hang out with your friends and things like that. But, right now we can't do that. We got to try to do our part to help fight this thing and hopefully get it under control so we can get back to doing what we used to do.
And what I've told a lot of young men who's called me coaches, say you have to say no to things we'll say yes to. Even for me, it's something I want to do, but I can't do because it's not worth it. I'm around older people, and right. I'm around people who I can get sick. I'm in my 30s. I probably will be okay, but I can speak for my older relatives who may not be okay if I go around them. So having to say no that you want to say yes to is something young men have to learn and understand, because that no today can save somebody tomorrow, and maybe even yourself. If because you never know what this virus is tricky. Because even here in town, in Georgia State, our starting quarterback is out for you because he had COVID, but has the heart thing where the heart muscle expanded, it's swollen, so he can't play. So even for a young man, COVID affects you, whether or not be the full like flu-like symptom of COVID, but it's doing something to your body internally, which is your heart.
And that's the problem, and that's what I tell a lot of young kids. You don't know how that thing is going to affect you, so don't take a chance. You know, you don't know if you'll be, asymptomatic, or you don't know if it'll take you, down like it does older people. You don't know the effects, especially being an athlete. I just, and I keep hearing people say, well, we can't just do nothing. We can't stop our world, and we can't do this. And I'm like, I don't know the final answer to combat this thing, but I know we got to do better than we've been doing, and we have to change something to try to combat it. And, other countries have been successful in subduing it, so there's something we're not doing, or we've just given up, and if that's the case, then this is going to be the normalcy for us. And who wants that?
Exactly, because I miss being able to go out and travel and see people and go on my college basketball tour before the Hawk season starts. I miss being able to do those things. I can't do it this year. I used to go visit different schools and see different guys' practices. I can't do it this year because of, COVID-19 and having older relatives around me. So, I mean, I bring sacrifice others can too. We need to do sacrifice today, Coach, so we can be alive tomorrow. People be alive tomorrow because people have died and are gone for no reason, because we're being selfish. It's selfish why we out of this. People are being selfish. They want to have their immediate gratification now, not thinking about down the road, the bigger picture here.
And all we have to do, man, it's I've seen friends of mine that have passed from it. I one of my childhood, I called them my big brothers in the neighborhood. We had a lot of big brothers in the neighborhood who looked after us young guys. One of my neighborhood big brothers passed away 2 days ago. So this thing is affecting everybody, and you have to have some type of compassion to understand. Like, man, we have to do something. We have to do our part to try to help subdue it and help stomp this thing out, because the numbers are the projections are awful. And if there's any way that we can do our part, especially in the Black community, we're losing our people.
Yes.
And if we don't care about nothing else, we got to care about our people. Because if we don't, nobody else will.
And Coach, that's so true, man. Coach, I'm sad because here in Atlanta, people having pool parties, having club concerts, and I'm like, what are we doing? We're hurting ourselves here, and it's like it blows my mind. Like they from the radio, Coach, come to the club, social distancing club. That's only in theory, Coach, because when you want to eat or drink, you got to take your mask off. We're in the same air. So that's in the dance floor. Hey, so this is a dance floor. It's not happening. So it's like, when I hear these things on the radio here in town and hear the promotion of concerts and I'm like, what are we doing? We're hurting our ourselves in the foot when it's kicking us out the most. And it's helping people who want to get rid of us indirectly as well, if you want to be truthful about it. It's like, come on, we got to be smart in this, Coach.
We have to be. And I mean, there's nothing else we're looking at the numbers. We're looking at our communities being tore apart by this thing. I've watched young men lose, both parents. I've watched, friends pass away. I've watched elderly people pass away. I mean, every aspect of our community, we're being affected. And we have to take the onus on ourselves to say, hey, we're gonna do something about it for our people.
Yes.
And that's the only way that we're going to have to change it. It's just like, when we explain to the younger guys about the responsibilities that we put upon them, to fight for equality and fight for, fight against systemic racism and to fight against all the things that have oppressed us over our lifetime, and it saddens me because some of us are so blinded because we've been under this oppression so long that they can't see it. They just think, that this is how it is. And I'm like, no, it's not how it is and not how it's supposed to be. I get questioned a lot by friends of mine say, why do you speak out so much about social issues? Why do you, are you afraid that, maybe they'll look over you for a bigger job? I said, I don't really care. You know,
it's about right and wrong.
Right.
It's about right and wrong.
But that's the mindset that some of us have been, tainted with. There are people who, I always make, I just got on social media since we've been in the pandemic because I've never been on it. So now I'm on it, and so I'll make a post about, I was congratulating and applauding the NBA guys for taking a stance, and so all in the same post, I was like, I applaud my NBA brothers for continuing to bring awareness and to make a stand about, what happened in Wisconsin. I said, but don't be mistaken, make no mistake about it. It's not their job to end racism.
It sure isn't.
I said because they didn't start it. They didn't create it.
Right. You got that right.
So, and here's another, I always call it the trick of the enemy. The trick of the enemy is telling Black people that we have to do something about racism.
It's not our problem.
We have to do something about something that's being done to us. We have to teach people not to be racist to us. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Are you kidding me? I just,
It blows your mind, don't it? It blows your mind. It blows mine.
I'm baffled sometimes when I sit here and I talk and I hear people say certain things and I'm like, what? I even heard people say, oh, the NBA players didn't do enough. They should have just not played. And I said, well, that's up to them. And you don't get to decide what's enough for me.
Correct.
And, a lot of those guys are doing a lot in their communities. A lot of them do.
Correct.
Because that's where they come from.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, a lot of those guys, think about how many young Black men or young Black women don't understand the importance of knowing the different situations in the community that they can affect. Like they don't know, the city councilman, and we're going to help influence these politicians, and we're going to help these guys. They don't understand that.
They don't.
Because we've never broke it down to them and taught them that.
Exactly.
And so those are things that we have to explain. Even the NBA guys, people were criticizing them because a lot of them weren't registered voters. And I'm like, well, you got to understand, being young like that and being in the situation they're in, that's
their mind's not there yet.
Right. Now, all of it is not their fault because a lot of times, we haven't been taught anything like that. Guys go broke because we weren't taught financial literacy. We didn't know. Our parents were living paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly.
So what can they teach us?
Exactly. Correct, Coach. You're so right. Like even me, Coach, I make more money in a year than my parents made combined. Come on now. I'm 33 years old. I make more than what my parents made combined in 1 year. They never made what I made now in 1 year combined. Or so I know that if I wasn't in radio and I wasn't blessed with what I have, I could be living like my parents living. I grew up poor. I grew up without. I know business to be on food stamps, Medicaid, and hope somebody would do something nice for me, getting emergency food boxes. So I'm sympathetic and empathetic to these people in my marginalized because I was them at one point. If I didn't go to school, get a good job, get into radio, who knows where I would be at? I would be the people marginalized probably still. But I know where I come from. I'm not going to make sure I'm going to be there for my people going forward because I've made it. I can help them show them an example of where you can make it and still give back and pay it forward and be a pillar in your community, not turn your back up. It's because I got a little status right now. So I understand, Coach. If it wasn't for me going to school for political science and knowing about policy and knowing about this stuff, I wouldn't know myself. But it took going to Tennessee State University. I learned about it. Now I can apply it back to my people.
And that's what it's all about. I started my foundation here, the LT&C Hunter Foundation, and we're in the beginning stages of building a community center here in Jackson, Mississippi. You know, one of the things that I really want to do, I want to have a community center where we have, computers for the kids. If they want to get tutoring, we have, an area for that. I want to have counseling for them. I want to have a mental health, counseling for them. Just a bunch of different things for kids that think about it. When we were young, we never had those things. We never knew what that meant.
Yes.
So those are the things that we're working on here. And, in my hometown, that I think is going to be huge for us, and anytime we can come back and do things like that, you got to love what LeBron is doing. You read about some of the things that all the other guys are doing, man, it matters. Every little bit matters. And people don't acknowledge that enough in our own communities. We don't. But it's important. Forget about what you think about them on the court. Look at what they're doing for their people. And I think that'll change your heart a little bit towards a lot of those guys.
And, Coach, since the George Floyd thing happened, I've been talking about social justice on the show. I'll be honest, Coach, I've lost 5 sponsors. Not that I need them, but it shows me where their minds are. They're talking about social justice for my people. A long time about Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Braves, the Falcons, you're okay. But when I talk about my own people, right, you drop me. And so I'm like, I don't need that. All money ain't good money. But it's just crazy
there
how
you go.
talk about my people. 5 sponsors pull out saying, no, we can't have this. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But thank God I have a guaranteed contract. They can't get rid of me. So I say, if you want to fire me. You still got to pay me. I don't care.
Right.
I'm gonna keep speaking the truth to power, because I have to speak. I have a platform from Chattanooga to Macon, Georgia, and globally and beyond with digital stuff now. So I'm gonna speak the truth
right.
no matter what I do, Coach. But it's crazy. They're talking about real life right and wrong stuff, and you lose 5 sponsors. Ain't that something?
It's and see, people don't understand when we talk about systemic racism. That's it in a nutshell right there. That's it in a nutshell. If you don't say what we like, if we don't feel like you're saying what we think is okay, then hey, we pull out.
Yes.
So those are the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. Hey, if you're too vocal as a coach, hey, we probably won't hire him here because he speaks his mind too much. I've seen it. I've been there. There are a lot of jobs I probably could have had I been their type of guy, but I'm not. And like you just said, all money ain't good money. I refuse to be something I'm not, to go somewhere that that people look at it and say, oh man, you should do that. And it's just not worth it. It's I can sleep at night. Yes. I can get up in the morning and look my people in the eyes and know that I'm trying to make it better for the generations behind me, and so they don't have to go through, this systemic racism that we deal with. I spoke out about the situation in New Jersey, Brooklyn, when they hired Steve Nash. And people were like, oh, well, there have been black coaches that I said, let's get it. I said, let me explain it to you. Let me break it down so you'll understand what I mean. And it's nothing against Steve Nash. I like him, actually. We wish him the best. I said, but there's no black coach on earth that I've ever seen wake up one morning and say, you know what, I want to coach. And he gets to go coach 2 top 10 NBA players where the team is predicted, when those 2 guys are healthy, to be fighting for a championship. Never happened.
You got that right.
Never.
Got that right.
We get teams that they expect you to work a miracle, and when you don't, you never get another opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But you watch them give guys, and you know what? And I have nothing against any of the coaches, but I'm just saying about the situations. Like,
yeah,
I've never really seen a black coach take over a team that was bad and get to ride it out till the end.
Never. And watch, look here in Atlanta with Lloyd Pierce. I love Lloyd Pierce, but I doubt he'll be here very long because he's going to take all the L's, get the team to a certain level, and they're going to hire somebody to appease Trae Young and hopefully he'll stay, not ask to leave after year 7 when he's ready to go to a bigger market. So I know this because I love Lloyd Pierce, but I've seen it too many times what's going to happen to Lloyd Pierce, unfortunately.
We've all seen it. We've all seen it. I remember we just did a big thing here in Mississippi about, changing the state flag, and they had all the Division I coaches, and so you look across the board and you go USM, white coach, Ole Miss, white coach, Mississippi State, white coach. You know what I'm saying? Jackson State, Valley,
Alcorn. Yep.
Now, is that coincidental? I mean, and people, I put some statistics up on Twitter one day, and I was just showing the discrepancy in Division I coaching black guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you always get the logical thinkers that come up and say, well, the reason is because, X amount of people, there are X amount of blacks and X amount. I said, okay, well, that makes sense. I said, well, let me use your same logic with players.
Mm-hmm.
So since there's more whites than blacks, why is there more black players?
Exactly.
Because if what you're saying is real, it'll reflect across the board.
Got you right there, right?
But it's not. And unfortunately, for black coaches, for us to be hired, it has to be intentional. It can't be the norm simply because we don't get the opportunities. And the people making the hires
they have
a tendency to hire people that look like them.
Yep.
So to even the playing field, you have to be intentional. It has to be intentional. It can't be a Rooney Rule because that's fluff. It has to be, hey, we're going to hire a black coach because it's needed.
Yes.
And a lot of people may not like that approach, but it's the truth. Exactly. It's just like anything else. One of my guys sent me an article, and it talked about the black athletes in college are contributing to the wealth of the whites that are going to college. Did you see that article?
I did.
So everything that has been put together and built was built without us in mind.
We're just a part of the helping hand to get us to that point of, it's all capitalism. It's all a form of slavery. It's all a form of, entertainment and building us up and driving up our, here we go. We got our black players out here helping us make all the money fund our scholarship funds, fund grants, and, all on the back of us once again. Same how the country was built, on the backs of black people. And we with the struggle for the scraps,
Right.
And that's the part people don't understand.
And it's so funny because I remember on Facebook there was a young lady who said to me, well, the NBA players, they're giving this and they're giving that. And I was offended. I was like, I said, excuse me, but those guys aren't giving anything.
You got that right to earn those contracts. You got to earn getting drafted in that league. You got to be very good to get drafted in the NBA. It's no giving. It's earned.
And do you think anybody's going to give somebody something that, especially owners, no owner I've ever known or know will pay somebody something they can't afford to pay.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't going to happen. So you best believe if Steph Curry's making $40 million, then the Golden State Warriors are making $240 million.
Got that right. Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket. And that salary cap artificially caps the pay. It keeps a certain amount of money where it gives us the salaries, everything else. So it's artificially set up to where the owners will make all their money. Let's look at the CBA. Right. It's easy.
Well, the salary, what the salary cap really is, right? The salary cap protects the owners from themselves.
Yes.
Because it stops the bidding wars.
Yes.
Those guys have egos just like everybody else. So if there was no salary cap, Oh, I want that. I want him to play for me. I'm gonna offer him $50 million a year. Okay, well, I'm offering 55. You know, it protects them from themselves.
Yes.
You know, so
exactly.
So you know, it's. And I'm not saying that, you know, we as NBA players, we weren't blessed because we were, but we worked for that blessing. We worked hours and hours, and we tore our bodies up to go out there and play the game we love. But it's all, man, it's all a situation where, you know, you be who you are and you stand for what's right, and you live your life that way, and you show people, you know, this is what I stand for. This is what I believe in regards to how you feel about me. Hey, this is it. This is how I feel. This is how I want my son to remember me. This is what I want my daughter to look at me and say, you know, hey, my dad didn't put up with none of that. He stood for what was right. You know, because my kids grew up in a different world than I did, because they didn't understand, because they were treated differently because of their social, you know, situation. People, you know, they were different until they got older and start seeing, like, oh, wow, Dad, I'm like, yeah, you know, you just weren't old enough to know, but now you know, and watching them grow up and watching them, you know, I went out and protested with my daughter and my son. I walked around with them, and it just made me feel good, because I'm like, they get it. Like, they're young, and they don't take a lot of the stuff that was, you know, that people were taking back. You know, my kids are like, what? I can't do what? Oh, no way. Not me. You're like, I'm just as good as you. And, you know, and you love that. You love that. And I remember watching all the young kids, watching all the young kids fight for justice, and making me feel like, man, this generation, just when you thought that all they knew were smartphones and video games, they get it.
They do. They get it. These Gen Zers get it, man. They get it, Coach. They get it, man. And I'm loving it. You know, being 33 years old, I'm a little bit above them, but I can still relate to them. And I'm like, yeah. Because you know, it's to be true, Coach. Though, for me and you, we're probably the first ones in our family to be born with full rights, per se. You know, the way we can, the Fair Housing, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act have all been passed. So our parents, it wasn't born with full rights on paper, right? Even though it's not really full now, but on paper it was, right? And so we have to fight and have for kids that for my generation having kids, and for fight for the same thing we fight for our parents couldn't fight for and fully get. Hey, it's a blessing to see it going on, because we got to keep this fight going one way or another. I'm going to use my platform. You're going to use your platform. We'll keep using our platforms to push this issue, because it's time for a change, for the third Reconstruction, to get this country on the right path after 401 years, hopefully.
Can't, man. We can't do it. It's past due. You know, I walk around and I watch and I see the different things that go on, and I watch. I was talking to one of my guys who was an former NBA player, and we were talking about the statues that they were tearing down. And you had some people saying, why are they tearing down statues? Don't matter. That's just a small part. I said, let me help you out. I said, there's somebody to do something everywhere. So every aspect of the fight, you got levels to everything.
Most definitely.
There's going to be somebody on the front lines. There's going to be somebody strategizing. There's going to be some. I mean, there's a line of people that are put there to do certain things. Hey, let them tear the statues down. The other people, we're fighting. You know, we're fighting. We're voting. We're fighting in the offices. We're doing. There's a place for everybody to fight, and I want to see. I was telling them. I said, man, I don't care what they do. Change all of it if they have to. Take all the racist statues, all the Confederate flag, all that stuff needs to go. I'm with it. I said, so don't tell somebody that's passionate about something else just because you see a bigger picture. To them, that's a big picture.
Yes.
And so until they finish that, then they may be able to see something else. You know? But everybody has something they can stand up for. And I'm in support of whatever they want to do that's helping us see differently, think differently, and go to different places and continue to climb, I'm with it. You know, I think we were talking about CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. I think we've only had 4 black ones.
Wow. Yes. Not very many. Richest one of us is Robert Smith, who gave money to Morehouse. He's the richest black person in America is him.
Right. So we've only had 4, you know, and I think only 1 woman, not counting Oprah, only 1 woman. 1 black woman.
Just tells you all you can know right there about what's going on. And people act like you're making this stuff up, you're embellishing it. Just look around you. If you're not dealing with it every day, you're not going to see it. I try to tell people, racism is subtle. It's not calling me an N-word or saying F you N-word. It's subtle. It's systemic. It's very, unless you know what is going on, unless you know what's going on, you don't really know what's going on. And so I try to tell my white counterparts, my bosses, my listeners, you can't sit on your high perch in the suburbs and speak to me about what's going on in the community and how racism is enacted. Because you don't understand this. Even you now are having a biased typical point of view about you can't put your own white lens on my black experience because you don't understand it. you know. So like you gotta listen and hear. Listen with empathy, understanding to know really what's going on. And I think after Ray Sharp books happened right here in Atlanta, some, not all, some ears are open and hearts are open, but some are still closed-minded, and that's their loss. But I see a little bit of twinkle of change, Coach, here in Atlanta with our white community, understanding really what's going on around us after having it happen right out here in our backyard.
But that's good because it's needed, and it's not really going to change anything until those that are silent start speaking up about it, because your silence means that you're supporting it. That's all that means. You know, people can say, well, yeah, I'm not racist. I've never said anything, you know, or I've never done anything. Well, you're part of the problem because as a white American, you can be silent and claim that you have no parts of it. But if you're standing in a room and you know what's going on and you don't say nothing, then you're still part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. You're complicit.
Because that's what it is.
You know,
and because we know, trust me, I know people that have went out to get business loans and didn't get it for whatever reason, probably because they were black, and had another person that was white go in the same exact credentials and get the loan. I mean, all these things happen. All these things happen all the time. You know, we don't even know, if we think back on all the things we've done, we don't even know how we were charged different interest rates than other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, all that stuff matters.
Exactly, you know? It does.
And it's so sad because, you know, you learn, you know, when you start learning these different things, you start trying to educate the younger guys. Say, hey, man, this is how you handle this situation. Or young lady, this is how you handle this. You know, because you want them to be able to call it out and see it and recognize what it is and expose it. And that's what we have to keep doing. As long as it's here, we have to keep exposing it. We have to keep bringing attention to it until they make the decision that they're not going to do it anymore, because I don't know how to tell you to stop being racist to me. How can I don't know how to tell you that.
Most definitely. I'm not that good. I'm not that good. Yeah, that's a you call, not my call. That's a you decision, not mine.
Right.
It blows my mind when the logic's thrown my right. Really? You know, it's like, okay, really. And you know, Coach, I've been called an extremist. I've been called a radical. I've been called Antifa. I've been called a socialist. I said to you all Christians out here, you who say I love the Lord, I'm Jesus. Name me something that I'm talking about Jesus and what we would be against. Please name me one thing. Equality, voting rights, fair housing, good schools, education, health care, access to health care. Name me a person Jesus let die. He healed everybody. So what am I for that your Lord is saying you wouldn't be for? That you tell me that you're all about? So the whole Christian conservatism to me is like, it's a farce. It's political.
Right.
That's what it really is.
I was listening to the comedian, man. He's the black guy. He does the news thing on Saturday Night Live. He's a brilliant comedian. I didn't know he was that sharp of a comedian. So he was talking about, he was like, black people, we can't have nothing. He was like, everything we have, y'all take it from us. He was like, we want equal rights, y'all fuss about it. Like, we want equal rights. We just want to be, we don't want more rights. We want to be equal.
That's equal.
Y'all don't want to give us that. He said, we talk about slavery, and I was like, why do y'all keep talking about slavery? Forget that happened over 500, 400, 500 years ago. Just let it go. He was like, but then we talk about 9/11, never forget. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like nothing we do or nothing we ask for, or nothing we want to think about remembering and trying to change is ever enough for them. It's always, oh, here they go again. Like, what do you want? What do you think we're going to do? Just sit here and, continue to be the stepchild? No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, and the really funny thing is hearing people get mad at people saying Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
I mean, it's so funny to me because I'm sitting here like, no one said white lives don't matter.
They've always mattered, obviously. Look at the country we in.
We just want to tell y'all, we matter. Like it matters to us that we're getting murdered and slaughtered on camera every day. And then you hear these once again, you get the smart guys with the numbers and come up and say, well, more white people are killed by policemen than blacks. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right, because there are more whites in this country than there are blacks. I said, but let me give you a fact. More black unarmed men are killed by policemen than anybody.
Yes.
It's a fact. You can't dispute it. So there is a problem. There's a problem. I fear for my kids' lives when they go places. I'm like, dude, be careful. Like, man, but that's the fear that you have because of what's going on right now, even with cameras. Doesn't matter, and it's sad, but it has to change.
Like, I tell my white counterparts, Coach Hunter, my dad has to have a talk with me about the police. You don't have to have that talk. That's one difference 101. I have to be told 10-2. Have my wallet in my system console, so nothing will be done. I'm a gun owner, Coach, but I don't carry my gun with me because it could cost me my life. I'm legally registered to carry a gun, but I can't carry it because if I carry it, it could be me, end of me. So that's the difference right there. And when you deny that fact, you just don't want to understand it, period, at that point. You just want to have it your way, like Burger King. Have it your way when it comes to my life.
Yeah, it's so many different facets to it, man. I like to debate about it a lot, and I like to talk to my friends about it a lot because we always we all think different. So I was a lot of people were upset when all the looting and the rioting was going on, and of course I don't want our people to destroy stuff. I don't want nobody hurt. I don't want any of that to go on. But I always tell them, I said, think about this. I said, those were learned behaviors. All the rioting and all that stuff you see, those were learned behaviors. Like, we didn't come over here and start doing that. When things happened in our community, whenever we started building something that was ours, what happened to it?
Got burned down or destroyed. One or the other, or both.
There was a black couple that moved to Southside Chicago after the war. They moved into an all-white area, an apartment building. The people there came with torches and ropes and guns to kill the people and burn down the apartment building because they moved in an all-white neighborhood. This is a war veteran now. And he and his family escaped. They burned down the building, took the guy who owned the building to court, prosecuted him because he let him move in. Now they ain't do nothing to the people that burned it down.
That just shows you right there.
And if you look throughout history and look throughout every state you can think of, you can go research it and look and see what happened, different situations that happened. There are a lot of black heroes, black and white. There are a lot of white freedom fighters that died helping us. And I read about a ton of them in Mississippi that you would never know about. That they were fighting the good fight to help, equality and help blacks, escape lynch mobs and escape the KKK and escape all that. And all those people were murdered. It happened all across our country. And that's part of our history, like it or not. That's part of our history.
You got that right, Coach. And I just feel like, guys like you and I can speak truth to power because it's always going to change. Because I'm tired of hearing I can't land on Stone Mountain. What they do over Stone Mountain still. I would not. I know blacks walk up Stone Mountain, and I wouldn't dare embarrass myself by walking up Stone Mountain. But we do it. I don't understand it. Kennesaw Mountain, Arabia Mountain, all these mountains of Civil War and the Confederacy. I don't get it. I wouldn't do it myself. So I don't go to Stone Mountain ever because they still have rallies at Stone Mountain. And I embarrass ourselves that way.
Well, think about this, here in Mississippi, of course, our history. One of the most racist guys that ever lived here, they named the reservoir after him, Ross Barnett. And and I'm looking to get a house, and I was looking around. I'm like, I'm not moving on the Ross Barnett Reservoir. The guy couldn't he despise black people. Why would I go live out there something that's named after you? But it becomes too common with us, and we start living with these things and accepting it, and that's part of our problem.
Yeah, I'm glad my parents, even they tell me you don't accept nothing. If they don't love you, you don't accept it. You go against it. You fight it. You fight the good fight. So I feel motivated more than ever. I'm in Atlanta, as the civil rights was a hub here. John Lewis, right. MLK, CCT Vivian, all these guys, Judge Lowry, Rev Andrew Young, all these people in the movement were right here, and I could touch and see, except for MLK, of course. But I've saw these people and been around them, and how they speak and just been around history like that. So I'm inspired because my city is a hub of civil rights, and we need to make this a mecca for Black Americans. We can come look at Atlanta, look how we've changed it, and I'm committed to it, Coach. I'm finally having a bigger job because I feel like I have the job I can do what I want to speak my truth. I don't want to be on another station where I have to kind of conform to make others happy because I can't do that, Coach. I'm not good at being something I'm not, man. So I have
you and me both.
I have to. If it means being a smaller station, be able to do what I want to do and still affect change my way, I'm gonna do it because that's the only way I know how to do it. Coach. I can't be a puppet.
Man, and a lot of us do fall into that trap. We fall into that mesmerizing feeling of, I gotta be bigger, and if I keep my mouth closed, I can go here. And man, I've heard people say that. I've heard them say, hey, Lindsey, maybe you don't need to say that. I'm like, what? Man, it's not that important to me, man. That's not that important to me. Yes. Me being me and me feeling like, I can speak my mind and I can teach the next generation and teach my young guys on my team what it is to stand up and be a Black man in America. That means more to me than working in the SEC or the ACC or the Big 10 or the Big 12. That means more to me than that.
Exactly. Same here, Coach. Like I said, I'm blessed. I'm able to cover Atlanta Hawks. I'm able to cover anything I want to cover, even at my station I'm at now, and still do what I want to accomplish without the hassle trying to appease others. And heck, I couldn't cover you at those other stations. it'll be frowned upon. If it's not Georgia Tech or Georgia, I can't even cover Kennesaw State, the other places, or Georgia State even, right here in the city. And so being where I can cover the SWAC, the OVC, my alma mater, the MEAC, and other schools. So
right.
The advantage of being somewhere small is that you can be you. Because going bigger means I have to give up some of myself to go bigger. And I don't want to do that. Because we might have had this talk we have today on the show. If I was at a bigger station here in town, it wouldn't even happen. It wouldn't see the light of day, coach. They would be like, no, we can't play. We can't use it. But here where I am, I can use it and go with
it. Right. And that's what our kids need to see. That's what our young guys need to see. They need examples like you. They need people that aren't afraid to say, call out what it is, and keep speaking on it, and keep teaching them that you don't have to settle for that. You don't have to settle for being something that you're not. And you still can excel and attain your goals. You still can do it, but do it your way, you know. And you'll feel so much better about it doing it your way and being who you really are than to sell your soul and you know, sell your people out and not stand for what's right. And you know, I've always said, because I work with a lot of kids and mentor a lot of kids, man, you may not reach all of them, but if you reach one, you've done your job.
Yes. You got that right. And, Coach, I sleep well at night, Coach. I know I'm being true to me, that I know I grew this show from nothing to where it is today, starting in 2012. Coach, I started in 2012. I grew it from on my own, Coach, no help, to where I am today. So I can say when it comes to radio show and the radio side, I made my break. Nobody gave me a break. I made my own break. So I can live every day knowing that I would never let what I built for the last 8 years be compromised by a paycheck. I'm paid. I'm single guy, no kids. I'm okay. I can make it. I've made enough money where I'm okay. So a few $10 or $20 more in another station does not mean nothing to me if I gotta dilute who I am and what I want to be as a host.
Right. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's where it's at. Substance over all the other crap, you know?
You get there right. That's what I got for you, Coach. I know a lot of coaches have been making sure that guys are registered to vote, getting them civilly engaged with the election coming up here. How are you trying to teach the young men about that, Coach? It's about voting this election cycle, getting registered to vote, whether it be Mississippi or beyond, mail-in ballots, and how are you getting you guys ready for this coming up here in the next few weeks here?
And that's one thing that you know, I've been talking to my assistant coaches about, us sitting down with our guys and making sure that they are registered to vote, you know, wherever they're from. We got a couple of guys from Atlanta, South Carolina, and other places as well. But we're going to make sure those guys have the ability to cast their vote, because that's what they need to know, that we care about that more so than, you know, the basketball aspect or anything else. You know, we want you to grow as young men and learn to be responsible and learn to do things like, you know, when you have a kid or you have a son or daughter, you're going to teach them, hey, you got to register to vote. Your vote matters, you know, and that means, you know, more so to us than getting in the gym right now, because we don't know when we're going to play. We don't know what they're going to do with the season as far as starting on time or pushing it back. But we do know one thing, you know, the day the vote is coming up.
It's coming up.
Right.
And, Coach, for us, your games, and we're real quick on your games, I've seen some contracts here where they got the COVID clauses where you get this number if you make this, if there's no fans, or if it's fans, you get this number. And, you know, as you and I both know, being HBCU graduates, that the football, men's basketball pays for everything else athletically. So what are you guys looking forward to for us games if the date's November 25th or December the 4th, whatever the date they're saying, to make it up those games to get that money in for the university there? I know it's going to be tricky for you guys at the level and the SWAC there.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot of programs, especially because basketball is such the driving force for the money in most of the HBCU programs, because a lot of those teams had to pull out. A lot of those teams don't know. We're looking at the Big Ten. We don't know if the Big Ten is going to play football. So that's their meal ticket, So a lot of those basketball teams, had to pull out, So we're gonna feel it more so than anybody else. And right now, the schedule is still being shaped because of situations like that, which you just talked about. Some teams just can't play because they don't want to pay for a team to come across the country, knowing that they won't have fans, So it's not working on our part and it's not working on their part. So we're constantly, trying to put the puzzle together, figure out, who we can play closer. If we're going to get to play any non-conference games, that has even come up. We have a coaches meeting on Saturday. We just had coaches, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But we all will feel it, and it'll affect a lot of people's lives. Hopefully, they'll be able to subsidize some of the money with the PPP from the government to help keep some of these jobs, because you hate to see people lose their jobs for something that they had no control of. So we'll see. I don't know what it's going to look like right now, like I said, but hopefully we'll get to play some non-conference games, to bring some type of revenue back in.
Coach Hunter, it's been great to talk to you for the last hour, man. It's been fun, man. I really enjoyed this conversation. We got to do this again real soon, man. This was excellent.
Absolutely, man. Anytime, you just call me. You know where I'm at.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much. Lindsey Hunter